Having watched and analyzed countless videos of the top chess educators on YouTube, I discovered there are vital things they are not saying about your chess development. The reason they are afraid to say them is because they do not want to hurt your ego, or maybe they still want you to buy their courses. Against the advice of my team, I will be revealing the full truth they are unwilling to reveal in this video, regardless of how you are going to feel, because these things they are not saying are actually halting your chess development. Before we go further, let me first make it clear that this video speaks to every level, whether you're a beginner, intermediate player, FIDE master, international master, or grandmaster. This video is specially carved for you. You would actually find it interesting how things change drastically at each level. Wisdom sometimes can be hard to define, but on intelligence, I can spot that from a mile away. This is the same for chess beginners. A beginner on a chessboard is like a captain on a ship without an anchor, drifting aimlessly on a sea of 64 squares. Chess at this stage always feels like you are wearing an oversized shoe as you stare at the board, not knowing what to do. Your pieces are like unruly children. You are not sure what they are doing, but you are pretty sure it is not good. At the beginner level, you are paralyzed by the sheer complexity of it all. Chess feels like trying to solve a Rubik's Cube blindfolded while being attacked by a swarm of bees. Not only do you not know how to arrange pieces on the board, but you probably might also need Google Map to castle queenside. And as expected, your greatest nemesis is the scholar's mate. When it is your turn to make a move as a beginner, not only do you struggle to figure out how the knight moves, but every move you make is like that of the knight because they all sum up to an L. To show you how bad you are as a chess beginner, you play like a musician with a broken instrument, discordant, frustrating, and utterly lost. Before you shrug your shoulders in defense, can you explain why you always forget you cannot move a pinned piece to your king? Also, why don't you always know your king is in check if your opponent does not state it out loud? In the chess community, the benchmark is so low for beginners, your success metrics are measured not by the brilliant moves you make, but by the number of blunders you are able to avoid. It's so ridiculous. It's like celebrating not spilling coffee on your shirt. A low bar indeed. It is funny how chess beginners always flash the thought that they will become a grandmaster one day, but only want to play with the white pieces because the only opening theory you have managed as a beginner to learn halfway is for the white pieces, and of course, it is the London system. The reason for this is clear. You can survive about 5 moves of the game as it does not require you to consider your opponent's moves before you make yours. Eventually, after the 5th move, you're out of your prep, spat into a middle game that you know nothing about. Then your opponent, armed with actual skills, would thanklessly annihilate you. But guess what? Even with all of this, while you are far down the chain in the chess world, to non-chess players, you are a genius. They see you as a Newton or Einstein every time they see you sitting by the board or playing chess on your phone. But little would they know that you are just a rookie. You can keep enjoying your white teeth rotting gum reputation, but if you are a chess beginner watching this and you want to improve so quickly, you can get out of that beginner bucket as insinuated by Garry Kasparov. There are 2 things you need to do. The first one is to study more chess, and the second is to stop playing chess for fun, but to learn. Because your greatest teacher as a chess beginner is the game you just lost, not the one you mistakenly won. There is one thing chess beginners completely neglect and classify as something they will learn later, when in reality, it should actually be the first thing or one of the first things they should learn. If I tell you the anger in my heart because no one says these things to beginners, it will burn my tongue. If I keep the anger in my heart, I am afraid it will burn me from inside. But if I let it out, I fear it will burn the whole world. I cannot let the anger and sorrow out, so I let the anger and sorrow stay inside. Regardless, I will reveal it later because it applies to not only chess beginners, but every player at every level. So please, hang on. If you are not a chess beginner and you are laughing or you feel any form of relief because the above words were not spewed at you, Better hold that laughter now because yours is coming and it is even worse. Now let us move to intermediate players. In case you do not know, once you can successfully play the game's opening phase without blunders, you are an intermediate player. At the intermediate level, you know all the basic chess rules, but applying them is just where it gets blurry. Of course, you know that king safety is one of the most important things in chess, so you always castle early. You always develop your knights before bishops, and unlike a chess beginner, the middle game doesn't feel like you have been dropped in the middle of an ocean. This is because you have a vague understanding of the middle game. For example, what a closed or open position is, but knowing how to navigate your way through that position is a thorn in your flesh. Unlike a chess beginner, you can play as white and as black. You are familiar with discovering attacks by monitoring pawn breaks, which gives you easy wins against beginners. When you play against beginners and some players just below your level, you are a god. But playing chess players above your chess elo is what really exposes your Achilles heels. As an intermediate player, although you do not like to accept it, your major issue, which you often overlook but is the singular element that will uplift your chess skill, is your lack of long-term strategic planning. Your strategy is like a leaky bucket, full of holes and weaknesses. Of course, you have mastered some tactics from a particular opening, but just as it is your strength, it's also your weakness because you only focus on that tactical play you have learned, rather than investing in long-term strategies. For this reason, in a chess match, you often pray your opponent walks into one of the tactics you have learned. When they fall prey, you dominate them, but you fall like a house of cards if they do not. This causes you to have inadequate pawn structures that lead to weaknesses in your position through limited piece activities and piece overload. Unlike a chess beginner, an intermediate understands the importance of piece development, but you fail to develop them harmoniously, leading to insufficient use of resources. The bitter truth no one tells intermediate players is that even if you get 1,000 courses, whether free or paid, it will not and would never translate to chess improvement because you only consume those courses to memorize opening lines and patterns rather than taking your time to understand the underlying principles of the openings, which is what will actually spike your ratings. You are the type of player often described as selfish because you fail to adjust strategies based on your opponent's moves or change in position dynamics when you are playing a game of chess. To crown it all, the biggest hole in your chess skill is your unspeakable end game. Even if you manage to get an advantage in the middle game, you most times fail to convert advantages into wins due to inadequate endgame skills. Other lapses you have are lack of patience, you always rush to attack, and you attack at the wrong time. And the god of it all, time management. You at times fool because you mismanage time in the earlier part of the game, leading you to make rushed decisions during time scramble. As if these are not enough, you most times fail to analyze your games to learn from your mistakes, which is keeping you at that level. Because all these faults make you as bad as the Wi-Fi signal of a local restaurant, you always lose to FIDE masters and other players above your rating. So often you see them as a god of the game, whereas they are not actually, they are shit. The only problem is that you are too preoccupied with surviving the quicksand of your incompetence to be able to spot their weakness. Don't worry, I'm going to do that for you. The next part of this video is about FIDE masters, and I'm going to be explaining how they are the weakest masters in the game. But before we go there, I need to say something to intermediate players. One of the few things you need to understand that is not actually chess related, but you must know it to break out of that intermediate shell you are currently in, is the intermediate plateau. People who understand the intermediate plateau concept are many times more likely to improve at any skill. This is the reason it is taught at reputable institutions across the world. I will explain the intermediate plateau in details in relation to chess later in the video, but for now, let's engage FIDE masters. As a FIDE master, You are probably part of the 10% of the best chess players in the world, which makes you a demigod in chess. You know opening theories in their numbers, have a good understanding of strategic concepts, and your endgame prowess is top draw. You do not only understand the value of pieces, but also know how their positions on the board affect their worth. You understand rules like a knight on the rim is dim, a bishop between two pawns is a tall pawn, and most importantly, you apply them religiously. You know when to trade, and you are good at keeping tension on the board. You understand the dynamics of positional and strategic chess, occupying vital squares and trading just to create weaknesses in your opponent's position. Not only that, you are so good you even get irritated playing chess beginners or players below your rating. You cannot even stand them, and guess what? You might have even had 1, 2, or a few wins against international masters or grandmasters. But because you are so good at various parts of the game, you are not truly aware of how complacent you are about developing some other parts of your chess skill. A great example is that you rely too much on your intuition rather than thoroughly analyzing positions before making any move. This makes you miss opportunities for improvement. Also, you underestimate and sometimes are blind to tactical opportunities like prophylactic thinking or intermediate moves. In addition, you cling too much to your style of play rather than adapting to different styles on the board. No good player got to the top by being an attacking or defensive player. They are good at everything. So scrap that idea that you're an attacking player or you're a defensive player. You need to learn how to be a good chess player overall. Although, like the intermediate player, a FIDE master struggles with time management sometimes, limited piece activities, and sometimes endgame skills. These aforementioned defects are not your major nemesis. The biggest nemesis in your way of progression to being a grandmaster or an international master is your mental endurance. You know the right move, but because you struggle with fatigue or pressure, it impacts your decision making, forcing you to make the wrong move. I could go on and on and on, but FIDE might see this video, and I'm afraid, and they would decide to question the reason you are even called a master and scrap that title. If you are a FIDE master, I have a gift for you. You can check the link in the description for the book called The Art of Chess Learning. It is totally and absolutely free. The book explains the method a Grandmaster Noel, who had a traumatic brain injury in 2017. The method the Grandmaster used to learn chess, which helped him attain that title. It explains what really matters in leveling your chess skill. If you are not a FIDE master, you can check it out too because it is very informative and you would find it valuable. Now let's move to International Master. This is the second highest title in chess. If you're an IM, you're a better version of a FIDE master. In fact, way better. You know everything that a FIDE master knows and you even execute them better. Due to your expertise, you might even have the time to create courses for beginners and even become a millionaire from the venture. Gotham Chess is a word for a reason. It is that cool. This is because not only are you good at the game, but you are also good at expressing its intricacies, which translates to you being able to teach chess at the lower level. As an international master, let me give it to you for free. Everything you want is within your reach. What is stopping you is you. You find yourself favoring intricate lines over simple and more effective solutions. The answers come to your head, but you doubt yourself a lot. Due to miscalculation, you sometimes show mediocre risk assessment, which gets you into complicated positions that you could have avoided. Also, although it is a hard pill to swallow, you rely too much on your opening repertoire and fail to keep up with new trends, ideas, or techniques. And while your end game is good, it does not match that of a GM. I'm actually of the opinion that IMs have the same level of intellect as GMs, but just that they do not utilize or tap into their resources just like GMs do. It's more like having a library of books that you do not access or you do not read. Because of all these weaknesses, at the IM level, if you blunder a piece, you are most likely going to lose the game. This is unlike a GM that could still salvage a draw or even turn the game on its head. And this is my cue to talk about grandmasters. A GM is at the top of the food chain. As a GM, you have a distinctive strength that sets you apart from the head. Your arsenal is filled with a profound grasp of complex strategic concepts, enabling you to create long-term plans and adapt to changing positions. Your endgame expertise as a GM is advanced, which allows you to win or draw seemingly equal endgames. You understand pawn structure management to the T and how to limit your opponent's activities. You're also great at setting traps. Your superpowers, precise calculation, prophylactic thinking, and adaptability are the magical ones you use to lead your opponent's pieces to slaughter. Your opening expertise is so extensive, you can decide to even play a gimmick opening just to poke your opponent's strength. As the cherry on top, your mental endurance is out of this world because your focus and composure level doesn't seem to be affected even when you are under pressure. Due to high demands and constant competitions, you value continuous improvement and you even seek novelty in chess or chess openings so that you'll be able to quickly outwit your opponent. Although this might not be regarded as a greatest asset of a GM, your ability to simplify complex positions and to find clear and effective solutions are a huge part of your arsenal. All of these enable you to consistently perform at the elite level and to also maintain your title. As a matter of fact, a grandmaster could blunder a queen against a lower rated opponent and still find a way to win or draw the game. This is because at the GM level, chess is not just about material advantage, but how harmonious your pieces are. For instance, a GM knows when to sacrifice a piece, the queen inclusive, if they see that the harmony they will get from the resulting position supersedes material advantage. Before I forget, as a GM, you are a beast when it comes to playing the waiting game. It might be hard for an international master to accept the fact that there is nothing to play for on the board or in a particular position, which might make them lose it or even force them to play a wrong move. But for a GM, it is actually a comfort zone. I have nothing to say to GMs on this video. You are part of the 1%, the 1% of the 10%. If you are a GM and you are watching this, I want you to state in the comment section some things you think creators on YouTube and other social media platforms are not saying. I'm sure you even know more than I do on this particular topic. The average chess player thinks GMs are the best players in the world, but that is a big fat lie. The best chess players on the planet are not GMs, but super GMs. The difference between a GM and a super GM is like a million to a billion, or Mr. Beast to other big YouTubers. Super GMs are not to be joked with. While a GM's mind is like a computer processing vast amounts of information to outwit their opponents, that of a super GM is like a super computer processing pieces on the board and how to outwit their opponent in the best possible way. A super GM on the chessboard is like a surgeon with a scalpel, precisely cutting through opponents' defenses with ease. They possess everything a GM possesses and more. For instance, while a GM can lord over a chess opponent in a normal chess game, they might struggle with other chess variations like Fischer Random, Extreme Puzzles, Extreme Blitz Chess, Chess 960, and other variations that are different from the conventional chess model. But for a super grandmaster, it is soft work. We all need to understand that chess is an ocean with everyone trying to plumb its depths. Super GMs stand at the top, but haven't even reached the bottom yet. Grandmasters trail closely, and with dedication, they would attain Super GM strength reflected in their ELO rating. Although GMs may appear flawless, they too will find themselves at the end of their wit when they play Super GMs. It is because Hikaru is a Super GM, is the reason he is able to gift 2,500 rated players opponents on chess.com his queen and is still going to comfortably defeat them. Or because Magnus Carlsen is a super GM, that's why he plays blindfold chess with countless people and defeats them with ease. If you get a chance to play a super GM and you capture their queen, be sure you are losing your king on the next move. Super GMs leave no margin for improvement. They know their game. In fact, they are the game. Do you think the Super GM title should be made official, or should it remain as it is? I want to know your opinion in the comment section. I don't think any Super GM will watch this video. They are probably not going to be watching YouTube. They are surely busy preparing for tournaments. But for you, who is a beginner or an intermediate player still watching, let's go over the Intermediate Plateau as promised earlier. Now, the Intermediate Plateau refers to a period when a learner seems to make little progress and finds it difficult to reach an advanced level. As a beginner, you have near zero ability in anything, so it is usually easy to progress quickly. This is because when you start out with no or close to no ability in something, it is almost impossible to not feel a sense of progress. After all, you cannot guess worse if your ability started at zero. However, once you get to the intermediate level, you already have a level of ability, and so your point of comparison is much higher, making it more difficult to notice any improvements in abilities. Why does this happen? Let me explain the Intermediate Plateau using the language learning model. Imagine you are learning a language. As a beginner, you start with common words like hello or thank you. These words are actually easy to learn and are frequently used, making them stick to your memory with ease. However, as you progress to intermediate and advanced level, you encounter fewer common words that require more effort to learn and remember. These rare words appear infrequently, which makes them harder to retain. The dynamics happening in language also mirrors chess improvement. Basic moves and tactics such as checks, pawn captures, and castling are like common words. They're easy to learn and they frequently occur. They form the foundation of the game and are essential for progress. But as you advance, complex tactics and strategies come into play. These include discovery attacks, exchange sacrifices, taking advantage of overloaded defenders, and other rare concepts. The challenge lies in mastering these advanced techniques. Since they appear less often, they are harder to commit to long-term memory. So this phenomenon creates the Intermediate Plateau, where new learning equals old forgetting. You forget infrequently used tactics as quickly as you learn them, and improvements stagnate. Very sure the question on your mind right now is, how exactly do we resolve this? I would explain. To overcome the Intermediate Plateau in language and in chess, practice alone obviously is not enough. Efficiency is key. Let's use language as an example. Regular practice helps combat forgetting. Similarly, in chess, solving puzzles familiarizes you with advanced tactics such as pins, forks, and even skewers. Another way to get past chess plateau is unlearning the progress. Breaking through the chess plateau requires more. First, you must unlearn oversimplified beginner rules and learn exceptions of these rules. For instance, in chess, understanding when to exchange pieces or sacrifice material for strategic gains. This is similar in language, which means you have to recognize idiomatic expressions and also subtle grammatical differences. At the beginner level, you need to understand the fact that everything is oversimplified. The aim at the beginner level is just for you to know enough to hang on. But if you want to break out of the beginner stage and even move past the intermediate plateau, you must unlearn those oversimplified rules you had been fed when you were a beginner. The exceptions to these rules that you were not taught when you were a beginner become very important to learn now. You need to deliberately practice to know when to break these rules you were taught and not just follow them blindly. For example, in chess, sacrificing a pawn to create a strong pawn center or weaknesses in your opponent's structure goes against what a beginner has been taught, which is a pawn for a pawn, 1 point for 1 point. But this is actually a very valid tactics when you go past the beginner level in many positions. Finally, creativity is actually essential. Sometimes we are stuck because we have learned everything we can learn from those around us. Improvement now depends on innovative learning techniques. I would advise you consider working with a chess coach, analyzing games to identify your area of improvement, exploring different opening repertoires, and I would also advise you join online communities or study groups, chess clubs spread across your country, wherever you are. Now, let's move to chess beginners. I promised earlier to review one thing you ignore for later, and I'm going to reveal it now. That thing is actually your end game. It brings anger and sorrow to my heart that most beginners do not learn the end game as quickly as possible. They are actually as vital as chess openings as well. So please, as a beginner, you can only go past that level once you know your openings, your middle game, and most importantly, your end game. In conclusion, regardless of the level you find yourself as a chess player, be thankful for where you are. A chess beginner who barely knows how to move pieces, and I'm serious about it, and how to capture, is probably better than 70% of the world at chess. That is crazy, but that is not the same for YouTube. I need more numbers so my videos can reach more people. For this reason, kindly like, share, and subscribe for more chess content. Thank you very much. I'm sure you will agree with me that when it comes to chess education on social media, Gautam Chess stands out. But this was not the case some years back. After watching this video on your screen, your perception about Gautam Chess will completely change. I won't say more than that. Just go and watch it to see for yourself.